kind of grew up, didn't I, with people like Bogey and, I don't know, people like that, John Wayne, those sort of guys. But they were kind of always around. But suddenly, in the early 60s, along came James Bond. I think most guys, I was kind of just going into puberty at that time, I think most guys were very impressed by this new guy who just turned up. You know, he'd done a few films before Dr. No, but it was in Dr. No that everybody noticed him, you know. And he was a great role model for us all, so I think he would be the one I would pick out of the hat, you know, certainly for that kind of formative time of my life. Well, I spent many years in radio. I started off on the pirate stations back in the 70s, which was interesting. Then land-based commercial radio started in 73, and I got involved in 75. I went to Radio Orwell in Ipswich, and then in 81 I came to Essex Radio in Southend. Ooh, yeah, I mean it was a fascinating period. The pirate radio era started in 64 with Radio Caroline. That's the one that everybody's heard of course, Radio Caroline. It was the first UK pirate station. The ships, and in some cases the structures, had to be outside territorial waters 3 miles. So the whole thing was quite funny in a way. I came along a little later in 1970 on a station called Radio North Sea International, which was, by this time, British offshore radio had been outlawed, and this was a Dutch-Swiss setup. So we had to go out to the ship from Holland rather than from the UK. But there was an English service on the ship, which ran in the evenings. And yeah, I've got some interesting memories. I mean, obviously I could talk all day about offshore radio, but I suppose the most interesting and quite dramatic story from my part in commercial radio was when they tried to blow us up. The opposition tried to blow us up because they'd made an agreement with our station. The station Radio Veronica had made an agreement with our station, Radio North Sea, that Radio North Sea would stay off the air, which it didn't do. It stayed off the air for a while, then came back on the air again. And consequently, somebody came across to the Liberator 2, which was the radio ship, and planted an explosive charge on the ship, which caused a huge amount of damage, but luckily it didn't sink the ship, so we lived to broadcast another day. You know. So that was probably the most dramatic thing that happened right then. I've been doing radio for quite some time, more or less continuous from 75 to, when would it be, about 97. And it got a bit tougher. I was made redundant from Essex Radio. Managed to get some freelance work, but it was quite tough. So I thought I'd try something a bit different. I'd always had a bit of a hankering to do some acting. So I did a one-year course at South East Essex College. And also at the same time, I joined the Southend Shakespeare Company. And I'm still with them actually. Did a couple of plays quite recently with them. So most of the stuff I did from the late 90s through to about 2009, 2010 was with them. It was mainly Shakespeare. And then I went to the Cambridge Shakespeare Festival in 2010, which was a pretty intense experience. Very short rehearsal period, but great experience. And I've done a few bits and pieces since then in London, and I went back to the Shakespeare Festival in Cambridge as well. Done some more stuff with the Southend Shakespeare Company. So I've kept sort of reasonably busy, not just with Shakespeare. I've done other stuff. I've done, you know, Pinter, Arthur Miller, and various other playwrights as well. I did Lute, Drew Alton's Lute, just a few months ago, which was good fun. I don't normally get comedy roles, but I had a comedy role in Lute, which was good fun. I've just played Brutus in Julius Caesar, which was probably my most challenging role so far. I've also I've done lots of Shakespeare, but picking out some key roles. I did I played the Ghost and Claudius at the Cambridge Festival in 2010. That was a great double to have done that. And outside of Shakespeare, this recent production of Lute, where I was playing Truscott, was great fun. And also I played the weird character in Arsenic and Old Lace, Jonathan, which was also great fun. So I think a lot of the most interesting roles that I've played have been fairly recent, in fact, over the last few years. I haven't done a huge amount of film work. I did a whole bunch of student films in 2010 just to get some experience of working in front of the camera. I did a UPS commercial which was on the box for ages, which is obviously handy. And just this last year, 2013, I was in Budapest for a few days for a cameo role in a Swedish film, of all things, which is actually doing extremely well at the Swedish box office, and which is due to be released in the UK at some point. Yeah, here's the title. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of a Window and Disappeared. Must be one of the longest movie titles ever, I think. And also doing a little film for a guy called Ben Lettieri. Well, I think in broad terms, basically, if you're acting for the camera, everything tends to be small, and obviously you have to watch your gestures and things, otherwise they just look ridiculous on the screen, particularly if it's a close-up. So, you have to think more about the technical side of things, I think, if you're working to a camera. I quite like, I prefer working to a camera, really, because I can be much more naturalistic. I mean, you can be quite naturalistic on stage, particularly in an intimate space, but you can be even more naturalistic in front of a camera. And you don't have to do very much, if whatever's going through your head, really most of that can be conveyed simply by the eyes, or maybe small facial gestures. You just have to think in your head what's going on, and normally it comes through. And again, on stage, it can happen that way. In an intimate space, you don't really have to do very much. But obviously, in a big space, or particularly outside, if I've done open air stuff, there it's very different, because you really have to concentrate hard on projecting your voice, so that people, if you've got 400 or 500 people appearing, to support you, then the people at the back are going to be a long way away from you. You need to be able to project your voice sufficiently for them to be able to hear what you're saying. So open air stuff is different again to performing in a theatre. I know a bit about him because we did the pilot for this film about 12 months ago, so obviously I had plenty of time to find out about this guy. He's rather similar, I suppose, to the lead man in the film, except that he's much older, much older, as you can see. But his background is very similar, I think, to Ben's background. Ben, the leading man in the film, in that he's probably been working for special forces or something. So he's very well trained, and he's obviously got a very long CV of things that he's done over his career. He's kind of semi-retired at this point, but like actors, I suppose, Nigel can't quite let go of what's happening. And also, he's a kind of a mentor for Ben Silver. He tries to keep him on the straight and narrow. Ben, being much younger, can be a little reckless sometimes. So I think Nigel is there to offer some words of advice, which sometimes are accepted and sometimes not. So he's kind of around and there to support Ben, all the time. He also helped to raise him, because I don't want to give too much away, but Ben's parents were killed when he was very, very young, and Nigel was around to help to bring him up and to point him in the right direction, I guess you could say. Well, I think there's a lot going on. It's very well cast. It was great. It was great fun. There's a great villain in it. It's kind of like a typical Bondian type film, really, with an interesting plot, some very attractive girls, and a very virile leading man called Ben Lettieri. So I think it's got most of the ingredients that are required for a film of this type. It's an adventure film. It's an exciting jumble of stuff, really, and there's a comedy in it. There's a little bit of sauciness in there, here and there, I tend to remember. As I say, it's got a great villain. And it's got, nearly all the ingredients you need for that sort of film to be successful and entertaining. And as I say, it's a great film. Anyway, aside from all of that, so come and see it. Put your money where your mouth is.